This is actually my second year here. I'm really excited to be at Bitspiration again. I'm going to give a talk on app design. And as I was trying to figure out how to present this, I don't want to focus so much on the technicalities of app design, but I'm going to interweave the design elements of mobile app development with the story of Parable. So the story of my app and how we went about building it. So with that said, let me introduce myself a little better. Again, my name is Natalia. I'm the co-founder of a startup called Orange Peel Labs. Prior to Orange Peel Labs, I built internet and mobile consumer products for millions of users at eBay and Microsoft. Orange Peel Labs is the second time that I'm doing a startup, and as Alex mentioned, in 2012 I had an app called Flockish, which was acquired by eBay. So just so you guys know, they were talking about sleep. I haven't had any sleep, so hopefully I can sound intelligent. I have really bad jet lag. So why is design important? Design influences all aspects of our life daily, and it shapes our behavior. And what you see here is actually a post by Parable users, I believe from China. And it's just a really clever way to use design to enhance everyday transportation. I just thought this was so delightful. When I saw it, I absolutely loved it. And why am I qualified to talk about this? Well, it turns out that we have the honor of being featured by Apple. So Apple really loved our design, and something that we're very proud of, considering that we built both an iOS app, both for the phone as well as for the iPad. So it was huge for us that they kind of gave us thumbs up on our design. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, if you're building apps, of course, is that when you're featured, you get traffic from Apple. It's essentially free marketing. So this is an awesome way to promote your app and not pay anything. So what is Parable? So Parable is a beautiful way to be creative, to express yourselves, and to have conversations. Easiest way to think about it in a nutshell, it's kind of like Instagram for thoughts. And one of my favorite parables is a user interface is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not that good. So best way to demonstrate this is actually to show you a very quick video of Parable functionality. So let's see if this will work. It's not showing up. Okay, give me a moment. I believe what I have to do is shift the, there we go. I have to shift it over. Let's make this big. Let's see, I can't see. Play. This is supposed to be easy. So that is the app in a nutshell, and let's close this guy. It's hard to grab. Anyway.
So first off, could I get your full name?
Will Steven.
Will Steven. It's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Did you find him? I think him.
All right. So, going back to the presentation. We also have an iPad app. This is a little bit of what it looks like. And the reason we built an iPad app is it literally took us 2 weeks to do it. So it was very simple. It was kind of a no-brainer for us. And of course, you get extra traffic, and it exposes you to more users. So the core of the app is the creation experience. It gives you a really beautiful way to express yourselves. You can enter a thought, select a look, so that's kind of step one. You can customize it, you could choose fonts, filters, backgrounds. And then thirdly, you can share. So you can post it across different networks, as well as being within the Parable network itself. There's also a discover experience, so you get popular and latest. You can find people or parables, you can do search, and then you can follow them. The next pillar is the engagement, which we have sharing. We have this delightful sharing experience. It kind of is an animated share that pops up that you could see it on the right. And then we have commenting functionality. Each post that you create can be liked, people can talk about it, and that gives them a way to engage, to meet each other, and to talk. So why did we build this app? I get this question a lot, so I thought I would address it. So as mentioned, we previously did a lot of mobile apps, and there's no question that mobile is taking over the world. It's the future. And so here are some crazy statistics. There are 1.8 billion smartphones on Earth, and that number is growing rapidly. There are now more smartphones than there are PCs. 79% of smartphone users check their device within 15 minutes of waking up. So people are very attached to their smartphones. On average, people check their phones 34 times per day. This is really crazy. It's a really good way to get people. And then finally, there's an explosion of images. Mobile devices are enabling the visual web and more images than there ever have been in the world. There are over 1.5 billion new photos daily, and that works out to about 550 billion per year, and growing very rapidly. So just for a comparison, in 1999, there were 70 million cameras sold just in that year. 80 billion photos were created with those cameras. This year, 2015, there's probably going to be 1.4 billion photo devices. And remember, these are devices. We can now take photos with a number of different devices. It's not just limited to cameras. 550 billion photos in 1 year. We're going to have more photos than were ever created in the history of the world. This is a staggering number. It's a huge opportunity that a lot of people are taking advantage of. So I thought, to motivate it, this was a kind of a funny post. This was actually really big. This is a cat whose owner meowed back at it. And this is the reaction that the cat had. So these sorts of viral images are really, really huge. And we see a lot of engagement. So as we initially had the idea, as a product manager and a product person, first thing you do is you think about the users. So we wanted to build a consumer app that would allow people to be creative. And as a consumer product, it really has to tap into an inherent human need. The inherent human need we chose is this need to be creative and to express yourselves. So we had a hypothesis in mind about who our users would be. We weren't sure, but we knew that we had to find out very quickly. So this is who we thought our users would be. So as you see, these are famous artists and an actress, Audrey Hepburn. So we have Frida, we have Andy Warhol, and Audrey Hepburn. So we thought Parable would appeal to this sort of a demographic, to this kind of a niche. And the hypothesis was we would build an app where people would come for the tool, this beautiful creative experience, and they would stay for the network that we would build over time, and that network would be one of creative people. Instead, here's what happened. These are the users that we got. It was very surprising. So a large number of our users are actually children, and they're 9 to 15 years old, and they absolutely love the app. Their parents are not on it, so they don't have to worry about it, which is a problem they have with Facebook. And they create these posts. Selfies are huge, as expected. If you have children on your app, one of the major things you have to think about is safety. So first thing we built was the ability to report inappropriate content, and we made that really easy. We've seen this crop up, and we wanted to make sure we were ahead of it before it became a problem. It happens somewhat infrequently, not too much. The other types of users that we got is we got a lot of people internationally. So people in China specifically really liked the app and it appealed to them. And here's a post from one of our users in China. She said, "I really like this app. It makes me meet different people around the world." It turns out that in China, Instagram and Facebook are banned. And so it immediately had the appeal of opening up the rest of the world to Chinese users. And this was very interesting. For us, it was quite unexpected. As we were building the app, we made sure to talk to users very regularly, and we did a lot of usability. One really easy way to do usability is to simply put together a couple of options, put them in a folder, ask your friends and people you know to give you their opinion, whether they like option A or B. So here's an example of when I did that. I posted it on Facebook, I posted it on Twitter, and a number of people replied and they gave me the option that they preferred. And then to re-engage them, and I kind of thanked them publicly. Here's another piece of really funny customer feedback. So we have a user whose name was Rational Foot. I thought this was pretty hilarious. It's another user from China. And the user says, "Oh, you're the lady who created this product. I knew it from the news. One question, why not add a function of shot video in Parable? 5-second shot video function would be good and funny." So I found this post really, really kind of cool, but mostly funny. And when you talk to users, they're going to give you a lot of suggestions. You as a product manager have to figure out where you say yes and no. In this particular case, I said no, but I love the fact that people are passionate enough to talk to us through the app, to give us feedback. They would give us suggestions, they would tell us what's going on wrong, what they want. So we spend a lot of time answering their questions, addressing them, having a dedicated time allocated to support. Very important. The other part that was really awesome that happened to us is one morning we suddenly had a ton of traffic, and we couldn't figure out why. And soon enough on Twitter, people were telling us that Parable was featured on a website called Product Hunt. How many people here have heard of Product Hunt? Okay, well, some number. So Product Hunt is really big in the Valley right now as a way to discover new products. And if you're building something, it's really great to get featured. It's for product people, it's for investors, it's for reporters. And so, again, one morning we woke up and we noticed we were on Product Hunt. And it turned out that a partner at Andreessen Horowitz had posted Parable on Product Hunt. And for us, this was really exciting because the partner in question, it was Steven Sinofsky, who pretty much ran all of Microsoft. And he's somebody that we respect very highly. So in our world, he's a rock star. So we were like little fangirls running around our apartment. We were so excited that he noticed us. The other benefit, of course, of being on Product Hunt, other than the traffic, is you get a lot of really good feedback. It's very intelligent. It's from other people who build products. So we got a lot of suggestions, and it addressed a lot of issues that maybe we had not seen before. As we were building Parable, as with any consumer mobile app, you have to think about how to re-engage users. In fact, I would say if you're building any sort of a startup, you have to figure out a way of how to retain your customers. So they're either customers or they're users of your app. So one of the models we strongly subscribe to is called the hook model, and it's created by Nir Eyal. And essentially, it's composed of 4 different, you can see the quadrants. There's trigger, action, variable reward, and investment. So for us, the trigger is people finding out that we exist. The action is people actually downloading the app. The variable reward is somebody liking the post, sharing their post, commenting on it. The investment, of course, is anyone who creates this beautiful post now has a storage of their work, and they may want to refer back to it. And it's this like really wonderful virtual loop that you have to think about if you're building consumer products. And building consumer products is so much about emotion, and it's about, in our case, the inherent need of people to be creative. So how do we do hooks? The first hook we had was just simply email. Anytime anyone signs up, we send them email. Anytime we have any sort of engagement, we also email people. This is, pretty typical. Both Facebook and Twitter have them. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice a little bit. I need some water. The other hook we have is in-app notifications. So this is when you do something, you're notified immediately. Again, fairly standard. So when you're building your app, and I would say, in fact, any product that you're building, one of the major things you should think about is, what is your brand? Building a brand is something that takes a good amount of time. You have to develop it over time. It's the message that you send to the world about who you are. One of the main parts of building a brand is like, what is the color scheme that you choose? And here we have like a number of different options. We have Snapchat, and they have this very vivid user scheme where we have yellow, red, and blue. Evernote is green. We chose orange. And that's kind of like our brand. It's a representation of the app. Step 2 in mobile app design is you have to make sure that everything is absolutely intuitive, very easy for the user. And of course, with mobile, you have very little space to play with. So you have to be extremely thoughtful. And whatever it is that you build, you have to kind of test it. Best way to test it is simply watch people use it. So I mentioned we do usability. We do usability online. We also did a lot of usability by simply getting people in the room and watching them use the app. And they'll do unexpected things that you would not think they do. When you're building the app, you tend to get kind of blind about what people actually do with your product and how they respond to it. We had some gestures in the beginning, but we found that they were very hard to discover, and this did not turn out to be a good thing for Parable. So I would say if you're going to use gestures in your mobile app, proceed with caution. Step 3 of the mobile design for your app is it has to be delightful. It has to be this beautiful user experience that people really love using. So you see Pinterest, Snapchat, Parable. Pinterest does this really well. It's very beautiful. It's kind of like almost eye candy. And it's really the reason why Pinterest has been so popular. It's also very easy to use. In our case, we have this beautiful little animated experience where you could share parables, and you could share them via all sorts of different ways, Facebook, Twitter. You can download it, text it, email it, Pinterest, Instagram, the whole thing. Step 4, it's really important when you're building a mobile product. In fact, again, I would say any product, whether it's internet or mobile, is that you make sure that everything is polished. Details are really important, and it's what's going to differentiate you against 90% of other people. It's really important to make sure that the alignment is perfect, the colors are perfect. And one of my favorite apps is Path. They did a really amazing job with their design. Everything is perfectly polished. It's absolutely gorgeous. The other one that I really like a lot is Flipboard, so you see that here. So here's an example of where we improved our polish. You see the before and after, and the before version, the circle is for comments, share, and liking. As we were doing usability, we learned that this was not intuitive for people, that it wasn't giving them enough space to do the action. And so we switched it to the after version, which spaces the buttons between, gives them more space. It's easier, it's more touchable, and people were responding. And as a result, we're starting to get more engagement from just doing this one simple simple change. So here's a perfect example of why polish is so important. Your metrics will go up just from something as simple as this. The other problem we ran into, and I'm sure you will run into if you're building for iOS, is device polish. Now with Apple has all sorts of devices, and when we were building Parable, we were doing it on iOS 8. We learned very quickly that if we built it on iPhone 6, it didn't necessarily mean that it was going to look good on other devices. So to do the polish, we had to literally go device by device and check what it looked like on those. We ran into all sorts of alignment issues, and we had to optimize for every single device. Not fun stuff to do, but it makes a really big difference because it's the polish, and if you want to get featured by Apple, this is something that you have to do. They're going to notice, and it's going to reflect poorly on you if you don't do it, if you have weird lines on different devices and so on. So simplicity is incredibly important. It's important for mobile development. It's important for any sort of software development. I really believe that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. That is kind of my favorite saying, and as a product person, I really abide by it and try to make everything as simple as possible. This is an example of Pinterest again, fairly simple and intuitive. So here is how we improved and simplified Parable. So what you see is the before experience and the after experience. So in the very first version of Parable, when we had a prototype, what you see is alignment, then you see font choices, and finally you see color. In the after, we really gave each one of those separate functions, we gave them specific space and bigger buttons. We also gave our users presets, so they didn't have to think. If you think about usability and product development, there's this really awesome book called Don't Make Me Think. And again, that's like something that I subscribe to as a product person when thinking about how to build features. The rule is the user should not have to think about anything. It should be absolutely intuitive. By doing these presets, we removed any sort of thinking. People could just simply tap on them and they were done. So here's, if you see I have the alignment in this tiny little space. This is what it looked like after. Give them very specific placement, and then we give specific buttons for fonts, alignment, and so on. The other really big thing is that, so if you think about Parable, anytime you create a post, it's a photo. We also added functionality where you can either use photos from your phone, or you could take photos with a camera. So in the beginning, we have this button. You can see it on top in the upper left corner. It's this tiny little camera. People were not noticing that. They did not know it existed. So we made it more prominent, and what you see in the after version is there's photos, and then which are photos from your phone, and then there's actual camera functionality, and they each have their own space. So step 6, if you're building apps, I really highly recommend that you customize everything. Apple really appreciates customizations. It really says that you go the extra mile and that you know iOS, another way to get featured. So in this particular case, we actually customized the camera, took our own. And then we added filters on top of it as well. So I want to, this is all about product design, mobile product design in particular, but design, a lot of it is so very creative. And if you're starting a company or if you're starting a new product, you have to work very hard at it. It's very ambiguous. And I wanted to read an excerpt from from Ira Glass, who is an amazing guy. He has a very famous podcast called This American Life. And he talks about creative work. So this is what he says. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish somebody told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have really good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple years, you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good, it has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting, creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you're just starting out, or if you're still in this phase, you gotta know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. So with that, for mobile design and development, there's no silver bullet. You're always going to have to think about each user case. You're going to have to think through the details. You're going to have to do the polish. And the first version is always going to be crap. I showed you the first versions of Parable. They're very rough. They're very unpolished. We were pretty embarrassed to launch it, but we did. We launched it because we got awesome feedback. And then we took that feedback and we improved on it. Ultimately, it resulted in Apple featuring us. And ultimately, we had so many users that it actually broke our email capacity. Our email servers were down. We had so many people coming and downloading the app to try it. It's one of these kind of surreal founder experiences. I want to give you a quick sneak peek of what we have coming up next. So we're building for the Apple Watch. And it's a little bit of what it's going to look like. And that's all I have for you. So let me know if you have any comments or questions, and feel free to contact me. There's my email and also my Twitter.
That was fantastic. Big applause. I told you it's just good. You know, I love it. Like silent people that just work and work and work and work and get shit done. So, questions, guys. There we go. One here, I'll go there.
Yeah, you said about feedback that people gave you through the app, and the question would be how many people, like roughly, gave you the feedback? Because yeah, I've made few apps, and my problem is that people are not giving feedback. So maybe if people gave you feedback, how you've made them give you feedback?
How do we make them give us feedback? So one of the things we did, I think very important if you're building an app, is we built functionality into the app so that we have a little pop-up that asks you to rate. If you've opened the app more than 3 times, we know that you're using it. And so this worked really well. And by the way, it's really good for you, for your app rankings. The more reviews you have, it's an easy way to get people to, just say, yes, I like the app, I give it 5 stars, or no, I don't like it. You'll know immediately. That's one way. The other way is we really went out of our way to solicit feedback. Anytime we were building anything, I would ask my friends, and a lot of them happen to be product people, so I'm kind of lucky that way. I would put it out on Facebook, I would put it out on Twitter. The other thing, just ask them for feedback and make it really simple for them. Just give them 2 options, 2 screenshots, and then ask, do you like A or B? And 80% of people will tell you like, oh, I like this version or I like that version. 20% of people will like really go in depth and say, well, okay, this is why I like it. And then they'll give you like 5 paragraphs. We also got a lot of emails. So this is not something like, we didn't do anything for this, but people would just like, there were people who loved the app so much that they would start emailing us and telling us like, oh, I really want this functionality, why don't you have it? That was kind of cool, unexpected. We also wrote blog posts very frequently, and every time we'd write something, on the bottom we would say, by the way, let us know if you have any feedback. Another way it works. And finally, the other thing we did is we were sending out regular emails and make sure that like people are not annoyed with your emails, so they have an easy way to opt out. But just like weekly, every week we would send the emails, we would track them, and we would ask actively for feedback. So lots of ways to do it, but you really have to take the initiative and you have to push it.
Okay, we have another question here.
Thanks. So I'm just curious, how many new users did you get when you were featured by Apple? Yeah, and what was their retention? Just curious.
So thousands of users. Thousands of users. So the thing is, when you get featured, you get a certain placement, and over time, that placement kind of moves. And so in the beginning, you get lots of users, and then over time, as you know, it moves on the list, you get less and less and less. But it takes a really long time, so it's really worthwhile trying to get featured, getting the polish, customizing, doing all these little things that Apple really likes, because it's free marketing. It's really good.
How many shares do you have from Apple?
How many shares do I have in Apple? Not enough.
Not enough. Okay, now question.
Hi, I miss monetization part. Money.
That's the investor question.
That's the ultimate question for a product like this. I mean, ultimately, you really have to have a very large number of users, and you do one of several things. So either you do advertising eventually. The other route is to syndicate content out to other websites where you get a partnership with somebody and they pay you for the content. So those are the two obvious ways, and the ways we've thought. But obviously, for that, you would kind of need to have like tons of growth and lots of users. So you'd have to reach a certain size before you can go that route.
So first eyeballs, then money.
Correct.
One more question. You want to come back? Okay. Oh, come on. Don't be shy.
Okay, so thank you for the thing with feedback. Next question would be regarding analytics, because you can also gather feedback through analytics, and the question is whether you're doing that and checking the events that people are taking in your app in order to change the app. So for example, if someone is not using some kind of the feature that you have, are you taking it down or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we do the really simple stuff first. So like we have everything instrumented, and it's pretty standard mobile stuff. All the events are like, we know what people are doing. But ultimately, for a product this size, like the number one thing that's really important is your growth. So how many users are coming back, and then retention. So those are the two key metrics. Does that answer your question? Otherwise, you have to instrument you have to specifically instrument all the events.
You can actually talk to her afterwards. Well, Natalia, thank you very much for your fantastic talk. Guys, applause. That was fantastic.
Thanks.